What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to go over several tips and pieces of advice and just things you're going to want to do before Chapter 6 Season 2 starts this Friday, the 21st. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, comment down below one change that you're looking forward to most in Season 2 or what you hope changes. And if you would like to use my code in the item shop when getting the Battle Pass, it is EvolveJake, just like my channel name. It's underneath the webcam at all times. So pretty much every season at the end, I make a video like this, and it is not only designed to help you, enjoy the final few days of the season, maybe a little bit more, but go into the next season more open to whatever changes will take place, and then hopefully play better as a result of those changes than you would be otherwise. I know from my own experience and players that I've known in the past, if you're really set in your ways or set in your playstyle, when things change up with a new season, it can be harder to not only adapt and play well in the new season, but also just enjoy it. So being more open-minded about change, whether that's to the loot pool or map, I think goes a long way in enjoying the new season more. The first thing you're going to want to do, obviously, or, be aware of, is that your Battle Pass progress is only for this season. So if there's anything you want out of the Chapter 6 Season 1 Battle Pass, whether that be skins, cosmetics, edit styles, any of that stuff, you're going to want to level up and get that stuff before the season actually ends. They did make a change to battle passes where some of these cosmetics may come to the shop in, I believe, 18 months or so. But even still, we don't really know how that's going to work with edit styles. Like maybe the, bonus edit styles don't come to the shop. We haven't really had enough time to see how that's going to work out. But either way, whatever you're missing out of this pass, if there's something you really want, you're going to need to level up and get those rewards before the season actually ends. And just playing the game can be a good way to do this. Doing challenges and quests can be a good way to do this. But also playing creative can be a good way to do this. Creative mode gives a good amount of XP. There's maps out there where you can fight players and get in a lot of fights, very quick, and each elimination you get gives you a good amount of XP. And then there's also maps like Tycoon maps, which require minimal effort to play and can give you a good amount of XP. So if you are struggling to level up, I think creative is the way to go. Regardless of how good or bad you are at the game, there's maps out there that can give a lot of XP, and I think the Tycoon maps are probably the easiest. The rest of this video is going to be about things that I think you're going to want to do to help you play better and also adjust to the new season faster, kind of like I talked about before. If you're someone who plays a good amount of Fortnite, you're probably somewhat burnt out on this season in kind of the current gameplay loop anyways, and you're probably not having the most fun playing. So trying different weapons and playstyles, I think, can really freshen up the game and, have a bit more fun for these final few days, but also help you adapt to whatever changes the game is going to make and whatever the meta is going to be next season, especially if you're someone who hasn't played Fortnite for a very long time. Like this season, for example, I have seen countless comments all season from players who have really struggled to adapt to the pump meta that started in Chapter 5, because in Chapter 5, the auto shotguns were just really overpowered the entire season. Like we had the Frenzy auto shotgun and then the Gatekeeper shotgun that stayed in for the rest of the chapter, and those were the dominant shotguns, and the hammer pump wasn't really that great. Whereas like when you look at Chapter 6, the auto shotgun's just kind of mid, and I think most people ended up preferring the Sentinel pump or the Oni shotgun. So if auto shotguns were the only playstyle and the only thing you ever really knew or ever got used to, adapting to the pump shotgun being good is something that a lot of people struggled with. Trying different weapons and getting used to those playstyles, I think, can really help you play better in Season 2 because you're already more acclimated with just a variety of different things. And then also probably enjoy your time more, because if you've only used one setup and one playstyle for the entire season or for, a few months at this point, it can be harder to adapt. And whenever I've talked about this stuff before, people will be like, it's not that serious. It's just a game. I don't care about how well I do. That's fine. That's good for you. It's not necessarily all about playing better, which if you're watching this video and watching my channel, you probably do. But I think just being used to a variety of different things helps you go into the season, not only just play better, but also have more fun because you're used to a variety of different things and you're not going to be as upset that your one main thing got vaulted. we don't really know exactly what is going to change with the loot pool next season. But let's just take the Typhoon Blade, for example. It is not confirmed anywhere that this will be vaulted next season, but I expect it to, just based on how Fortnite typically does changes to the loot pool. A kind of marquee mobility item like this rarely stays in the game for longer than one season. Like we had the Shockwave Hammer in Chapter 4 Season 1, Kinetic Blade Chapter 4 Season 2, Grapple Blade Chapter 5 Season 1, was vaulted after a season. The Icarus Wings kind of iffy because it's a Greek item and that was a Greek season. The Nitro Gauntlets were only there for one season. The Kinetic Blade did end up coming back this season, but as I was saying, like the main mobility item kind of typically goes away after one season. So I kind of expect the Void Mask and the Typhoon Blade to be gone after the season, at least for a period of time, you know? They might come back later. But either way, let's just assume, for example, the Typhoon Blade is getting vaulted. If you're someone who's heavily relied on this all season for mobility, but also for fights, I'm sure we all have seen those people that seemingly only use the Typhoon Blade in fights, right? If you're one of those people, and that's how you've enjoyed the season, that's great. But if it's gone next season, you're probably going to have a harder time adjusting to Season 2. And then because you're having a harder time adjusting to Season 2, probably not going to be having as much fun in Season 2 if this item goes and it was kind of your entire playstyle. So trying to play without the Typhoon Blade for the next few days, or at least just like use the attacks less, I think can definitely freshen up the game for the final few days of Chapter 6 Season 1 and kind of give you a different experience than what you're used to, but also open you up to not being as reliant on things like that when the Chapter 6 Season 2 does end up coming out, and then hopefully play better with what is in the loot pool. If the Typhoon Blade stays, then that's fine. You've already experienced a lot of it and you can probably go back to it just fine. But like these final few days using something different, I think can really help you out. And you can make the same exact argument for something like the Hollow Twister AR. I would expect there to be some sort of red dot AR next season. Well, let's just say there isn't and you have to use third-person ARs. Using something like the Fury for the next few days, I think would help you adjust easier to not having a red dot AR rather than just having like day one, there's no red dot. Now you got to use the third-person ones. You use it over the next few days, you'll be more used to that playstyle. And again, it can kind of help freshen up the game and make it something different than what it has been for these final few days. Because like if you play a bit worse for the last 3 or 4 days of a season, who really cares? You know, it's not that big of a deal. And as I said, if you are someone who's kind of newer to the game, I think stuff like this matters more. If you're someone who's been playing for multiple years, you've probably played through several different metas, and it's not like you've never had a pump meta, you've never had an auto shotgun meta, you've never had a third-person AR meta. You know, if you've been playing for a very long time, you probably have had to adjust to these different playstyles over time, so it's not as big of a deal. But if you are someone newer, I would highly recommend using just some different items and different playstyles over the next few days. And even if you are someone who's been playing for years, it can still help, and like I said, make the game a little bit more fun over the next few days. With Chapter 6, the weapons went back to hit scan. And so there's decent potential for almost any item from Fortnite's past to return. So I think playing reload mode over the next few days could also help with that and kind of do everything that I just said. You'd be using different weapons, adjusting to different playstyles. And if any of those items do end up coming to the game during Chapter 6 Season 2, whether it's at the launch or later on, you've already gotten some experience with them and gotten used to them. And reload is a different game mode. So if you've only been playing BR, might be a little bit more fun over the next few days for you to play that instead. In Chapter 5, the weapons were projectile, so we didn't get very many unvaults from Fortnite's past. They mostly reworked weapons. But with Chapter 6 going back to hit scan, almost anything is on the table to return. And we kind of saw this already with like the Ranger AR being unvaulted this season. The suppressed pistol was there at launch, and you know, the railgun came back. There's a lot of weapons that came back this season that were from past Fortnite because the weapons didn't need to be projectile and they didn't need to work with weapon attachment. So we could see a lot of different weapons potentially return over the course of Chapter 6. So being familiar with those weapons could help. And I think playing reload is probably the best way to get familiar with a lot of different weapons, because the reload loot pool is just kind of a mix of a lot of stuff from Fortnite's past. The same exact thing that I said about weapons and playstyles could also be said for landing spots. If you are someone who's only landed at one POI this entire season, you're probably not going to be the happiest if you load up season 2 and it's gone, right? But if you know a variety of different spots on the map and you enjoy playing a variety of different spots on the map, if one goes, it's not going to be as big of a deal to you. And this is something that I have very much experienced in the past. In Chapter 1, Season 7, when Greasy Grove was removed, I was not happy about that. And it definitely affected how I felt about Season 7 for the first few days, and like kind of made me go into it with a more negative opinion. So I would highly recommend learning different drop spots. Again, this is something that can make the game feel different, make it feel fresh, make it feel a little bit more fun for these final few days, and help you in the future. Season 2 is a bit different than usual because we know from art that Fortnite posted that Twinkle Terrace, Nightshade Forest, Lost Lake, and Warriors Watch are expected to be the POIs that change. We usually don't know exactly which ones are going to change. So if you've been only landing at one of those spots, I would highly recommend trying to learn something different. But even if you have landed at spots like Mass Meadows, Demon's Dojo, those POIs will probably change a bit because the boss probably won't be a part of Demon's Dojo anymore next season. And the Void Mass guarantee at Mass Meadows might not be there anymore. And so that might change up how you feel about it. Either way, I would highly recommend, trying out different spots. But especially if you've been landing at Twinkle Terrace, Nightshade Forest, Lost Lake, or Warriors Watch exclusively, I would highly, highly recommend learning a different drop spot because, like I said, to me in the past, that really affected how I felt about a season's launch. And with a lot of things, your initial impression can go a long way in kind of just shaping your entire opinion and your entire mindset. And that's why I try so hard with these videos at the end of the seasons to try to recommend doing things that will help you be more open-minded when the new season comes. I've also talked in countless videos about how playing aggressive and getting in more fights will help you get better at the game faster than just like hiding and playing to win. And if you are someone who's, had a more passive playstyle and you've cared more about winning all season, then, loosening up a bit and trying to play a bit more aggressive, I think can really help you improve at the game, make the final few days a bit more fun. And as I kind of said at the start of the video, if you play worse for a few days and get less wins and when the season's over anyways, who really cares? If you're someone who's been worried about crowns all season, it's going to reset in season 2 anyway. So it really doesn't matter. And I would highly recommend playing a bit more aggressive, trying to get in more fights and actually improve your fighting skill, because that is something that I think goes the furthest and actually helping you improve as a player. If you can't fight, I think you're very limited in terms of like how good you can actually get. Also, if you don't want to play BR, I think playing aggressive is good. But if you want to improve even faster, playing something like creative, I think can really help. There's a lot of creative deathmatch maps out there where you can get in fight after fight after fight after fight in a very short time span, and that's just infinitely more efficient from a practice in a certain amount of time than just playing regular BR. If you hate creative, I know a lot of people do, reload is also something that can help. I think reload, again, from a fighting time efficiency perspective, it's much more efficient than regular BR, but I think even creative is much more efficient than reload. So reload's kind of in the middle. You'll get in fights faster than BR, and the penalty for losing a fight isn't as big, but I think creative is the best in terms of just getting in fights incredibly fast and having no penalty for losing. And then the final thing I want to talk about is just going to be to potentially change settings. If you're happy with your settings and you feel comfortable, that's great. Don't change anything. But if you felt for a while like, maybe your keybinds are inefficient, but you just haven't wanted to change it, you didn't want to play worse for a few days, or, same with sensitivity. If you don't feel right with your settings, but you've been kind of procrastinating making a change, now is another time to potentially do that. Because again, as I've said several times in this video, if you play a bit worse for the final few days of a season, who really cares? I don't get it. Or like, it doesn't matter, So if you have been putting off changing settings that you've wanted to do, I'm not saying you need to change settings, but if you've wanted to do it anyways, now is potentially a good time to do that. And again, that can help you freshen up the game a bit for these final few days, because a lot of people at the end of the season feel like they don't really have much to play for, whether it's levels or kind of like I said, who cares about winning as much? Crowns don't matter. If you don't really have something to go for, getting used to those settings can be somewhat of a motivation to play, and that can help you enjoy your time playing more over the next few days. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys did find this to be, helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Comment down below something that you hope to see change in season 2, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.